Hello everybody, this is DeanoGTO, and today we are going to continue with the Stock Tank Showcase series, although I am going to update the name. I'm going to change it to How to Stock Grind. The reason, I just don't like the Stock Tank Showcase name. It's getting on my nerves, I don't like saying it, pretty much is honestly the main reason. So, WZ-111, I'm just going to start off showing the modules I have mounted on the vehicle. I have the 100mm gun from the 110, the radio from previous vehicles in this line, including the 110, and the engine unlockable from the IS2 and the 110. So those are the only modules you will have unlocked from previous vehicles in this line. So yeah, this is going to be pretty much the form you're going to have this tank in whenever you start the grind. So the equipment I had to move the mic around a wee bit there. Um, the equipment I would recommend you install on this vehicle would probably be the rammer, the vertical stabilizer, and the gun lane drive, mainly because the aiming time with the stock turret is 2.9 seconds, which is pretty damn bad. So you want to try and minimize that aiming time, although I do need to point out, with this equipment setup, which is the same setup I had on the 110, I did actually notice with this gun does feel significantly more usable than the same gun on the 110. The 110, I don't know what it was about it, but the 110's gun handling was abysmal. This was some of the worst gun handling I've ever come across in this game. So yeah, on to the actual overall just summary of the vehicle. So let's just start off with firepower, considering it's here. So this thing has a 320 Alpha 215 pen 100mm gun. With my setup, which includes Brothers in Arms, by the way, it has about a 7.6-second reload, including the rammer, of course. 5 degrees of gun depression, which is to be expected because that's the typical amount of gun depression for Chinese and Russian vehicles. 0.36 accuracy. 0.36 accuracy is pretty decent. 2.5 second aiming time. That's taken into account the gun lane drive and the Brothers in Arms. So yeah, overall the gun stats are okay, but they're not the greatest. The gun stats get a lot better whenever you have the top turret installed. So these are the stats you're going to be dealing with. But even with these stats being a bit worse than they will be with the top turret, they definitely still feel better than they did on the 110. At least to me, because the 110's gun handling just felt horrific, just in my opinion. So onto the mobility next. I'll get to the armor last. So something I should just point out about this vehicle. This vehicle is bizarrely light. It's 44.7 tons in terms of weight. That is bizarrely light for a heavy tank. I mean, just to put it in perspective, something like the E75, which is the same tier, 92 tons. IS4, 61 tons. T30, 65 tons. Centurion Mark 7, 52 tons. So, yeah, this thing is bizarrely light. I mean, it's actually closer to the M46 Patton in terms of weight than it is down at the heavies. I mean, this thing's only 3 tons lighter. And things like the T10 are about 5 or 6 tons heavier. Even when you have this thing fully upgraded, this thing still weighs about 44 or 45.7 tons. So yeah, this thing is really, really light for heavy. So try to avoid ramming things and don't get rammed because it's surprisingly light. I mean, this thing weighs as much as a Kranwagen pretty much. And the Swedish heavies aren't exactly known for their weight. Their weights are not particularly good. Don't get rammed by anything French or anything Russian, pretty much. So yeah, just to sum that up. So specific power ratio is 13, but 13 doesn't seem that great if I'm totally honest. But the actual power to weight ratio, or the actual mobility of this vehicle, actually feels in general pretty good. I mean, it can do 50 kilometers an hour, which is a 10 kilometer an hour boost over the 110, which is a really welcome boost. 13 power to weight ratio is actually feels pretty decent on this vehicle because it just feels like it can actually do that speed, if that makes sense. Like, it will hit 50 if it's given enough time to reach it. It will take about 20 seconds sometimes to hit that speed, but it can do it. It won't do it on flat ground. It can do it. It won't do it up a hill. No chance in hell it'll do it uphill. But on flat ground and definitely going downhill, it will easily hit 50 going downhill. But on flat ground, it can do it. It will do it if it's given a long enough time to hit that speed. So yeah, and the overall like traverse speeds and the just in general for this vehicle are actually pretty decent. It can actually react to threats that suddenly appear around it very quickly. So that's a really handy feature to have in a heavy tank that's kind of like this one. Um, so yeah, in terms of overall mobility, it's pretty damn decent. And it definitely feels faster than the stats would lead you to believe. Let's see. So I think the next thing I should probably go over is just the overall survivability. So in terms of the armor on the turret, I'll just get the turret out of the way first. The stock turret is actually technically stronger than the upgraded turret. The reason for this is, well, if I just mount the upgraded turret just here quickly, this thing has two huge ass cupolas for people to shoot at. Stock turret doesn't have that. So yeah, the only weakness the stock turret really has is this plate here is 30 millimeters and this plate here is 30 millimeters. I believe this plate in between them and goes down the sides of this one is either 60 or 90. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, these zones are very difficult to hit if you fought an IS-3, and this is basically an IS-3 turret. These areas are very difficult to hit reliably. So yeah, this turret's going to be overall pretty damn strong versus most tanks unless they're above you, in which case that could be an issue. So yeah, and now onto the hull armor. The hull armor, I'll just do the side armor first, just to get it out of the way. So side armor is actually surprisingly decent for side scraping. I mean, it's 120 millimeters here along this area here. That's 80 on the side, so it's kind of like an IS-7 in the fact that it has stronger armor up here than it does down here. So yeah, but the thing with this thing here is, unlike the IS-7, its entire side is covered by the tracks, which is really handy and makes it a lot more difficult to reliably actually go through the tracks and actually do damage to this vehicle. So that's a really handy bonus to actually having such big tracks that cover such a large area of the actual side profile of the vehicle. It means you can angle the tank like this, and you basically can't see the 80mm area if you're in a taller tank. And it isn't until you get to an angle like this, I would say, that people really start to be able to reliably pan you. At this kind of angle here, though, I would say that's either a 50-50 or pretty much no chance of actually going through. And angles like this, just forget panning this thing. Yeah, it's kind of bizarre how good this thing can actually be at reverse side scraping, but then again, this thing does have a long hull, so that helps a lot. And onto like the front armor. So the front armor, the lower plate is going to work versus tier 7s and some tier 8s. That's about it. The upper front plate will work versus most tier 8s, excluding tank destroyers, and some tier 9s. The occasional tier 9 will bounce off this, but don't rely on it because this is not exactly the most potent armor in the game. Because it is pike nosed, but it's only 120 millimeters, and it's not the best sloped in the world. So yeah, I don't recommend relying on this. If you're going to use the armor on this thing, you should try and use it while hull down. Like using this thing's armor while the hull's exposed is going to be tricky, and it's going to be RNG depending on whether or not you bounce a shot. And I would say typically it's better just to expose your turret than it is to expose your hull, because exposing the hull, or there is the option, of course, of you using 5 degrees of gun depression. That does increase the effective slope of the upper front plate, so that could make it a lot more effective for bouncing shots, but it can be tricky to find positions where you can reliably do that. On level ground, this upper front plate is not going to work particularly well versus tier 9 heavies and higher. So yeah, overall the armor is okay, mainly due to the side armor, but the upper front plate and the front armor in general, I don't recommend relying on it. So yeah, I think that's the bulk of the things I wanted to talk about on this vehicle. Going through, do I have anything else I can really think of to go over? I'll just check my phone because I have like a wee list of things I want to talk about. I went over the equipment and the modules, ability, armor, and oh yeah, the playstyle. So, in general, the playstyle for this vehicle, as you would probably guess from like my general description of the vehicle, this thing is pretty decently quick. It has okay-ish armor, and its gun is low pen but relatively quick firing for a heavy tank. So this thing can basically play as a heavy medium. So it's going to be slightly slower than the mediums. It's not going to be able to keep up with them reliably. And sorry, I just accidentally moved my table out of the way. It's not going to be able to reliably keep up with the mediums in all scenarios, especially when going up hills. But its armor is decent enough to go toe to toe with most tier 9, with a lot of tier 9 mediums, especially things like the M46 and T54. And it will definitely bounce the tier 10 light tanks, especially if it's only the upper front plate showing. Or did I say tier 9, 10? I meant tier 9, and lower light tanks. So yeah, the firepower on this thing here, because it's only 215 pen, you have fighting against mediums is your best bet, because mediums in general have significantly weaker armor than heavies. Like, would you rather be shooting things like Leo PTS or M46 Patents, or Centurion Mark 7s, or would you rather be shooting at things like this? If you have the option with a 215 pen gun, you're going to want to shoot things like this, this, and this. And thankfully, the WZ-111 1.4 does have the ability to actually choose its engagements, and isn't forced to basically just try and just burr through it as playing as a heavy tank, even when you don't have the gun to be able to pen extra other heavy tanks. So like things like the VK, or not the VK, the things like the Mouse Gen have to suffer through using a 220 pen gun, which is horrifically inaccurate, versus heavy tanks like E75s and stuff. I mean, 220 pen, gonna struggle versus things like E75s. So yeah, in general, play it as a medium tank. Support your medium tanks if you're lower tier. Then if you're versus tier 10 mediums, you can do pretty well versus them. And if you're tier 9, you can play as a heavy, but if you're against things like E75s, then you're going to get your ass handed to you. I should just warn you about that. So generally, going with the mediums and just fighting mediums in general is probably the best bet, because your gun's going to be able to pen those more reliably, and your armor is more likely to be effective. So yeah, that's my general advice as to how to play this thing when it's pretty much stuck. So yeah, now it's time to go on to the replay. Right, so we are back with the game. Now, I'm only have one game in this one because I don't want this one to go over 25 minutes if I can possibly help it. Because, well, my previous one I think was over half an hour, and I think that was way too long for this type of video. I think about 20 minutes is probably about the sweet spot. So yeah, I'm going to try to keep this quick if I can. It'd definitely be easier to review mediums and light tanks than it would be to review heavies, because in that case, with mediums and heavies, or mediums and lights, you don't have to go over the armor, because the armor, for the most part, is pretty much non-existent. So yeah, so just talking about WZ-111 now. So this is the form that I showed in the garage. Stock tracks, stock turret, and the upgraded, or the second engine, upgraded radio, and the 100mm gun. Well, you can tell it's a 100mm gun because I'm using the stock turret. So yeah, as you can see, this thing here is pretty damn fast, and it's pretty easily able to hit 45 kilometers an hour, and 45 kilometers an hour is really goddamn good for a tank of this size. I nearly said a tank of this weight, but then I remember, oh yeah, this thing's really light for heavy. So yeah, this thing is pretty easily able to set around 40 and 45 kilometers an hour. It will do 50 really, really easy going downhill, and it can do 50 if you give it a long enough straight. It does take a wee while, and typically it's easier to do if you're on hard terrain, but yeah. So, first shot of the game missed. Now this is just WZ-132 going on basically a suicide run. Take a shot at that Score T50, that was lucky, I will admit that, but yeah. Taking some health off that guy is helpful as hell, because those things have devastatingly powerful autoloaders. They don't do much damage per clip, but at the right time, those things can devastate a team. Like just poking up at the perfect time in a good location can just wreck people, and just like the fact that pump shots are so quickly, and they all do like 320 alpha per shot. It just wrecks people's modules, and that 5100s run away, and I see an opportunity to try and ram this guy, and I'm so close to ramming him, and then a wild M41 appears and just completely blocks me from ramming him. I was genuinely pissed off whenever that happened. I was like, God damn it, you motherfucker! I won't ram him, because I know for a fact that I am 10 tons heavier than a T-54, and that was the perfect opportunity to ram a T-54 because I'm pretty sure the rear armor is either 50 or 80 millimeters on the back. So either way, I had more armor on the front than he had at the back. So that was the perfect opportunity, and I got fucked up for him by that light tank, but whatever. So yeah, Skoda T50 is dead, which is really useful. It means that devastatingly powerful autoloader is out of the game. Now, something a wee bit weird is going to happen here. My tank is just going to kind of turn to the right. Yeah, this moment right here. You see my turret kind of freak out, and my reticle kind of freak out for a second. My game completely locked on me for about 3 or 4 seconds there. I don't know what happened there. I had just like a random server, I think disconnection or something like that there, but it reconnected and I'm able to continue the game. So 254 lightweight shot me inside, 250 damage, and yes, he is using the top gun, so that's good to know. Yeah, just going to finish off this guy. That's what I mean by this thing's gun feeling a lot better on this tank than it was, and that was on the 110. And something I should just point out here, this is what I mean by this tank armor not being particularly effective versus basically guns that are equivalent to like tier 9 and 10 heavies. That thing basically has T-34 gun, which is basically the T-125 gun, but with slightly less pen, slightly like worse characteristics in terms of the aiming time and stuff. So yeah, that gun versus this tank is just going to shred this tank every day of the week with no real issues, because its armor just isn't strong enough to deal with a 248 pen gun. I can tell it was 248 pen gun because 360 alpha, and well, you could argue that could have been the 105, but you're going to see later that that's definitely not the 105, because the 105 does not do the damage as consistently as that. And honestly, I would say, and yeah, you could say that was dumb, but yeah, 441 damage, that was either an exceptional roll from the 105 or just good roll for the 120. I did miscalculate there in terms of like the overall like reload for the T20 prototype. I genuinely thought I would have been fast enough to outmaneuver his turret and get another shot into him before he got another shot into me, so that was kind of my bad. I kind of miscalculated a bit there and thought I would get away with that, but now I'm driving around with a dead engine for the next like 30 seconds. At least this isn't the end of my game, which it would have been previously, prior to the introduction of reusable consumables. So yeah, in the 15 seconds I'm able to get my engine back into working order, which will be really helpful. So yeah, I can see there's T-34 and the remaining tanks on their team. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tanks remaining on their team. We have 8 tanks remaining on ours. So it is still a pretty close game. This could still go either way, and we do have a bunch of tanks on relatively low health. I mean, most of our tanks actually looking at, at least the ones in front of me, are one-shots, including myself, and that guy took a shot over here. And I have repaired my engine now, and you can see this thing here just easily able to go over 35 kilometers an hour, and a wee bit more time I would hit over 40 with ease. So yeah, this thing's mobility is great. I do stick a shot into the ass T-34. T-34 does have a long ass reload, so I don't really have to fear him for a while. T-34 does look away again, but as soon as I move around a bit, the T-34 immediately starts looking at me again. But yeah, I use this opportunity to take a shot into the IS-6, and well, yeah, the IS-6 is dead. T-34 is still going to be focused on me because he's really pissed off at me because I put one shot in his ass. And yeah, this is why I hate shooting the T-34 turrets. The T-34 turret is just so fucking random. If you hit it the wrong kind of angle, you're going to bounce off. It doesn't matter what the hell happens. It's going to bounce. It's really annoying. But yeah, kill off the T-34, which was nice. And I actually didn't realize this at the time. This is a really close game. 11 to 10. We only have a 1 tank advantage, and we don't have that many tanks with a lot of health left. The Skoda T50 is all the way over there. I can't see what his people is, but the T54 is a 2-shot for the T34. In fact, if the Batshot got lucky, he could that guy in the Batshot could kill. I think. Let's see how much health does that guy have. He could kill me, this IS-3, and probably that T-54 in one clip with ease. So yeah, this isn't exactly a great scenario right now, but the Batshot does have pretty low health, so if he was on full health he'd be a lot more dangerous right now. And I do take a snapshot at the Batshot, hoping to maybe get another shot into him to lower his health a bit more, to make sure he's not too dangerous, because as you know, if you've played the game for long enough, autoloaders, the amount of health they have directly correlates with how dangerous they are at the end of the game. Because typically they have very little armor. So yeah, and Batchat suddenly appears, and this is where I just go, oh, fuck, 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 and yeah, that was unbelievably lucky. I think his next shot was in the chamber and about to be fired, and I just about I reloaded him. So I think his first shot was aimed at my lower plate. I think that was it there. I think that bounced. Um, the second shot did pan. I think it was probably one of these shots here. Actually, no. The first shot was this shot here. That hit my spaced armor. The second shot hit here and did damage, but I just about beat his clip reload there, and managed to kill him. That was really, really lucky. I'm not gonna admit. I'm not gonna say that was skill of any sort. That was just luck. So yeah, and that's what I mean by this thing's armor basically kind of dependent upon RNG at the time. So yeah, it can be a bit touchy sometimes, but like how well the armor actually decides to work. So yeah, let's just continue with the game here. So I do see that the Tiger 2 and the T-32 are still over there to my right. Don't want to get hit by either of them because I am only on 20 health now. And Tiger 2 shoots the gun barrel of the bad shot, and that allows me to finish him off. And now the T-32 is right there. I was trying to go for the top gun. I'm 1 kill away. IS-3's now side hugging the T-34. T-34 misses a shot. IS-3 6 shot into him, and I managed to get the final kill and get up to the 6 kill mark. So what that replay basically showed off there is the ability of this thing to basically just keep up with the mediums and just the general fast heavies like the IS-3. So yeah, this thing really does work well as part of like a medium tank wolf pack. It's not quite as quick as the mediums, but it's damn good. It's a damn good tank to have as support for mediums. And I'm actually just looking at this. Was that the shot from the T-28? Thinking about, yeah, that must have been the shot from T-28. Because yeah, I was going up crest, so I was trying to think like, what the hell tank had an angle at me to shoot me there. Yeah, it must have been the T-20 prototype. Thinking about it, so yeah. That basically just shows this thing's mobility and ability to just keep up with its teammates in terms of just getting around the map, going to the medium tank side of the map, and just being able to just more reliably do damage to more targets. Like if I had gone to the heavy tank side of the map, I would have had like this was a scenario where I could have potentially done it, but if you look at their team, they had IS-6, T-32, T-34, T-34, Tiger 2, and a T-20 prototype. Versus those tanks, this is a scenario where it's kind of like 215 pen versus an IS-6. That's still kind of a 50-50 to where another pen. T-32, forget about it. T-34, that's, yeah, as you saw, like, even when you have a good angle versus the top of the T-34's turret, it's still a very, very shallow chance of actually penetrating. And Tiger 2 is also very, very powerful in terms of its armor. 215 pen versus those tanks isn't going to be very reliable, and I try to avoid premium rounds when I can. So yeah, the medium tank playstyle I definitely think is the best way to grind through this tank. And as you saw, this thing can be very, very good. A very, very good support vehicle for mediums, and whenever you know like roughly when to take hits, although you could say that was a bit of a misplay versus the T-20 prototype, to take so many hits from, but yeah, I just basically did what I felt like I should, but in my gut. So yeah, yeah, I think that's about all I really had to say during the replay. So let's go on to the post-game statistics. Alright, so that game was worth a second class mastery, top gun, 1100 base XP. So yeah, overall pretty solid result. Let's see, so top of the team on XP. I think overall probably fourth in terms of damage, considering how well the enemy Batchat 25 TIP did, and how well our Skoda and our Batchat 25 TIP did. So yeah, a pretty solid game for those guys as well. 18 shots fired, 15 hits, 13 penetrations. That's a pretty good ratio. I did lose 9 grand in that game. If I had been using a premium account, I actually would have made 5 grand. So yeah, but I don't run a premium account, so that was a loss for me. So yeah, I feel like that overall that game was a pretty good representation of how I reckon this tank should be played. I ignored a couple of the noob mistakes I made. Like you could argue the T-28 prototype engagement was pretty poorly done. But yeah, what can you do? Sometimes you go with what your gut tells you to, and sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes it does. So yeah, you might be wondering why I picked a second class mastery really to show off like how I reckon this tank should be played. I do have better games, like technically in terms of raw XP, but a lot of those are just me getting like playing like an idiot and getting exceptionally lucky. So yeah, I didn't feel like those were appropriate, and there was one of them that I got like ridiculously lucky in a bunch of scenarios that I was going to use, but then I watched it back and just went like that doesn't show any of the things I mentioned in the previous recording. So yeah, I'd say against that one, but that one will come to the channel in the future. Just not right now because not really appropriate. But yeah, overall, in terms of stock grinds, the only tanks I can really think of that are easier to stock grind in this thing are probably the E75, the E50, now that gets the idiot L100 as the grinding gun, and the Centurion 7-1. I can't think of any other vehicles off the top of my head that are better in terms of their stock grind at tier 9. Well, obviously other than the Object 704, because the Object 704 gets the top gun from the tier 8. But I can't exempt that one for the most part because it's just like oh yeah, you get one upgrade and you're done. It's bizarrely easy on that tank. But yeah, overall pretty damn easy stock running on this vehicle. Pretty enjoyable actually as well considering the speed of this vehicle. It makes it a lot more versatile to play. So yeah, I'm actually be curious to know like what do you guys think of this vehicle? Have you driven the stock? Did you free XP your way through it? In terms of like the stock modules and stuff, or what did you do? I'm curious to know. So yeah, let me know. As I said, let me know in the comments what you think, and let me know. Yeah, do you think I should try and shorten these videos, or do you think they're about a good length? I think personally about 25 minutes, 20-25 minutes probably the perfect length. This one's a bit longer than that, I know, but it's not too much longer than that, so it should be okay. So yeah, let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.